from new vehicle customization to new info on gangs, the story, and even references that you didn't get the first time you watched it, here's my list of 25 things you missed in the GTA 6 trailer. To start with, did you know that this is actually a real woman? In LA last year, a video surfaced of a woman attacking a car with a pair of hammers. She was recorded while doing it, she started swearing at the person that was recording it, and then she randomly decided to attack a pair of wheelie bins?
Call, please.
And now she's been immortalized in Grand Theft Auto history. Now, in this shot of the trailer, your eye might have been drawn to all of the supercars that are either parked up or in the street, and I wouldn't blame you, because it's really cool seeing a lot of these vehicles that are returning and also some new stuff as well. However, you might not have spotted that, first of all, there's a dude on the street here who's begging for spare change, and that probably indicates that that's going to be an AI type that we can come across in the world. But more importantly, on his shoulder is a little green creature. At first I thought it was a chameleon, but actually it's an iguana. And Miami has such a big iguana problem in real life that at certain times of the year, it's actually legal to shoot them because they're an invasive species and they're bad for the local wildlife. Some people also eat iguanas in Florida, and there are also bounty programs that local councils will put into place to try and trap as many of them as possible. So honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if in GTA 6, at some point, there's like a side quest for us to go on an iguana rampage. Now we see one of the two main characters, Lucia, in her inmate outfit here, but earlier in the trailer, you might not have spotted it at first, but you can actually see the prison from the outside, and it looks pretty massive. And while we're on the topic of prisons, this shot is really interesting, because first of all, it seems to be first-person gameplay, which is just exciting in itself to see some of that in the trailer, but also it makes you wonder, does this mean that you're going to be able to play as a cop, and you're going to be the one doing a raid like this? And the extra layer of detail that you may not have known is that there are actually rumors going around that Jason, the other protagonist opposite Lucia, is actually going to be a cop. And so he might use that job to get some kind of insider info about things, or it may be that he starts off that way in the game, but then he turns rogue and goes bad. Either way, the inclusion of that shot means that those rumors about him being a police officer could well be true. This ties in nicely with another shot in the trailer which shows Lucia and Jason back to back, and this is actually a reference to a classic shot of Bonnie and Clyde, a very famous pair of outlaws from the US who died doing what they loved in real GTA fashion, to be honest, which was stealing from banks and then trying to flee from the police in a high-speed chase. Now, who knows if that's going to be a little bit of an omen as to how the story is going to go in GTA 6, but knowing what Rockstar are capable of from, for example, the Red Dead Redemption games, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some heartbreak thrown in there at some point. Now, I need to give credit to L Benji from Reddit for this next point because, oh my god, he went so crazy with this one. So what Benji's done is he's matched up all of the locations in the trailer to real-life locations. So I'm going to rattle through a whole load of different locations now and show you some of their real-life counterparts. This looks like Turnpike, and he says probably towards the pen where Noriega is. This looks like South Beach or Edgewater. This is the Florida Everglades, although it won't be called the Florida Everglades in the game because they changed the name. This looks like Port Miami. This looks like Shula at the part where you turn to Winwood or the stadium. And speaking of Winwood, this is also Winwood, but also reminds Benji of Across 95, that one street in Alapata. And this looks like the subscribe button, which you should totally hit right now for more GTA news, updates, gameplay, trailers, the whole shebang. This looks like KOD. This looks like Coral Gables near Vizcaya. This looks like Tuttle. This looks like Ocean Drive. This just seems to be a generic club, probably space. This looks like Brickell. And this looks like it's way out there in Hialeah, considering the distance. This reminds Benji of the little Publix cafeteria thing that they have. This is the GTA version of a Sunoco. This looks like Turnpike, and specifically looks like Riverside. This is giving big Kendall vibes. For Hamlet here, it looks like Homestead is called Hamlet, and this is like the sort of classic low-income housing blocks. This looks roughly like Edgewater. This looks like Overtown, and this could be Mikasuki, maybe? And this looks like it's probably something like Big Daddy's, which is the Flanagan's liquor store. So as part of that, I mentioned the Florida Everglades. That's swampland in Florida. And in one of the first shots we see of that, we see all of these flamingos, which is cool, but you might not have spotted there's actually some alligators just creeping in the distance there as well. And we obviously see plenty of alligators later in the trailer too, which I love. I really am hoping that we could be like robbing a store in the game or something, and a freaking gator could just walk in the store behind us. That would be so cool. Now, another thing the trailer seems to show is that NPC behaviors have been massively expanded. Because if you go back to GTA 5 and compare, the options for things that NPCs can do at any given time are fairly limited. And so you kind of get the same interactions and the same reactions from them over and over again. Whereas in this, it looks like they're really trying to create new AI types and new reactions. And a layer of this that goes even further that you may not have considered yet is that with all of the social media that is really focused on in the trailer, it's possible that in the game, if an NPC sees you robbing a store, they might pull their phone out, start recording you, live stream it, and that might then alert the police to the fact that that robbery is going on. Or it could alert local gangs in the area that have that store under their protection, for example. There are going to be so many more ways for those sorts of interactions to happen with live streaming and stuff like that happening 24/7. And another example of this in the trailer comes from this shot here, where it seems like Lucia is just having a really good time on the car here, but there's actually a guy in a vehicle leaning out of his window to record her. I'm not sure if he's with her or if he's just doing it because he's like, yo, she's a vibe and I want to get a video. And speaking of a vibe, this is seemingly the Jack of Hearts club that was mentioned already in leaks last year. We've obviously had different clubs in different GTA games, but this strip club seems to be the Jack of Hearts. Now, going back to the inmate shot for a second with Lucia, when she's talking to the counselor, it turns out that we can actually see the counselor's name on a little nameplate. She's called Stephanie. And the fact that that's in the trailer makes me think that there's a good chance that Stephanie is a somewhat important character throughout the story. In this shot here, we see a few things that are interesting, actually. Number one, there is a returning vehicle called the Sea Sparrow, which can land on water. That's been in previous GTA games, and it seems to be back in this one. And alongside even more people taking photos and videos and really just amplifying that social media vibe through the whole trailer, you might not have spotted the guy here who's jacked, by the way, who's running along the beach, is actually running with a dog. I think it's a Chihuahua. And that makes me think that other people might have even more unhinged pets. So we could see people, for example, on the beach with ball pythons, because those are a real problem in Florida. And it totally wouldn't surprise me if someone tried to take one for a pet, but I'm sure all sorts of other animals will be there as well. In this shot, we see a load of yachts, and this makes me think, number one, we're probably going to end up robbing one of those yachts during the game's story, but we're probably also going to be able to buy yachts for ourselves as well. And if we keep the water shots going here for just a moment, in this shot, we see none other than the Florida Keys. But passing through the Keys is a cargo ship, and it's moving, it's mobile, so it wouldn't shock me if, just like that yacht heist, we might also be able to hijack cargo ships in this game as well. During this very muddy scene, you might not have spotted that it looks like a car is actually doing a stunt jump in the background. I thought that was pretty awesome. And also just looking at all of the vehicles here, these things have clearly all been tweaked and customized to a massive degree. And I think that's to indicate that they're really leaning into a lot of vehicle customization and modification in this game. Another thing I didn't mention in this shot is you can actually spot some tennis courts. Now, if you've played GTA before, and I mean, who hasn't, you'll recognize Pisswasser. That is confirmed to be returning as well. This billboard seems to be some kind of joke about anxiety, maybe, or depression or something, because this medication cures emotions. There are a handful of different gangs in the game that are shown, and my personal favorite is this biker gang. I think that these guys look sick, and the game's also been confirmed to not be launching on PS4 or Xbox One or PC. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe, and please remember to leave a like on it as well.